Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, your sanctuary with retreat experts, where we spill the tea on retreat success. Here we dive into crafting transformational guest experiences, talk about how to avoid pitfalls, and unlock marketing secrets. Whether you're a seasoned guru or a budding enthusiast, we've got the inside scoop for you. Join us as we learn how to flourish in this magical world of retreats. Hey guys, welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. This is Shannon, and I wanted to start my podcast off today by first thanking everybody who leaves me reviews, because y'all, reviews mean everything to us. I read every single one of them, and they really do help us to get the word out and get more free tips and excellent speakers and guests out, like our incredible guest that we have today that I'm going to introduce just in a minute. But first, I wanted to give a shout out to Alea Harris, who left a review. She says, a must listen for retreat leaders and coaches. The Retreat Leaders Podcast by Shannon is packed with expert insights, real talk, and actionable strategies for hosting transformative retreats. Shannon's mix of personal experience, deep industry knowledge, and engaging guest interviews makes every episode valuable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I so enjoy these reviews. So if you haven't reviewed us yet, could you please pause and scroll on down to do that? Because those really do help us to get incredible guests like today's guest. I'm going to have her introduce herself and tell us what she does. But welcome, Terrie, to the show.
Oh, Shannon, thank you for having me. I'm so truly honored and grateful to be here.
I love it. So first, why don't you just tell us about you, what you do, how you got to this point, like a little bit of journey into who you are.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm an intuitive energy healer. What does that mean? I work in the subconscious place. Like you and I right now, and the listeners are consciously hearing what's going on. However, it's your subconscious that's going to be triggered. I may say something and someone say, oh, I don't like her, because that's a trigger. That's immediately what they're going to go to, meaning it could have reminded them of what mom might have said or how she would have acted, and then I've just triggered them. And so I work in that space, a subconscious, where you cannot recall. I can go back to when you were born, 3 months, 3 years old, and I'll pick up what is going on in your subconscious, and then I can shift it so that you can feel more enlightened, more powerful, more at ease and grace with your life. And I found myself on a journey. I was in corporate for many, many, many years. And then about 20 years ago, I had a spiritual epiphany, and it was at the end of a 14-year relationship. And I was actually able to shift some of my childhood stuff by 3 simple words. And those words were love will come, because I was struggling at the end of our relationship where we did have children. And it gave me enough strength to leave the relationship and empower myself. So I had to heal a lot of childhood mama drama, dad stuff, all of that and more, because my parents were teenagers when they gave birth to 3 children, and we were not triplets. And so I found myself on this journey of being able to heal my own inner child wounds, my own, emotional wounds between my partner and myself, and then going on that journey, and then being able to do what I do today. So that's it, all in a nutshell.
Okay, I love this, especially, first of all, I honor that journey, and it sounds like it was painful, but also really what I think Glennon Doyle says very well, which is brutal, right? So it was brutal and beautiful at the same time. And so thank you for that, for sharing that. But I love subconscious work. Subconscious work is literally where so much is housed. And because it's subconscious, we're not always aware of it. And we're actually usually not aware of it. And so I love that. And especially what we're going to talk about today, because so many folks are in this space or are curious about this space, and the space being hosting retreats. And they're struggling with limiting beliefs, self-doubt, and feeling like, are they really good enough to be in this space? And so could we just talk about where that's housed and just some ideas that you might have about that? Because I know that that's one of probably the biggest struggles. And in my opinion, one of the reasons why they might quote unquote fail at hosting a retreat.
Absolutely. Because think about it, they're in a position of leadership. They want to gift back their community to empower them and lift them. And if they find that they're not fully, or seeing that they're not fully connecting to their tribe or community, then it could spiral them into that not being good enough, not being heard, not being seen. I could go on in various different ways, but it really stems from our childhood. Because when I can give you so many examples, but perfect examples are, let's say, I would assume that most of your community here are women. Is that accurate? Okay.
Most of them.
So,
We definitely have some men in our
mhm,
space, which I love, but most are
mhm.
probably women.
Yeah, yeah. So, and in this case, so when you have a caregiver, and let's label it dad. So you'll have a caregiver, dad, and you're a child experiencing things for the first time. So you'll see it and you'll hear it. So for us, it's different. As an adult, we've lived life. We understand our responsibilities, our goals, and what we felt emotionally and physically, what we avoid based on those life experiences. But as a child, you're seeing it and hearing it for the first time. Then you have to make a decision within that time frame how to respond or how you're taking it in. So let's say you have a dad who may be emotionally disconnected, and you're a child that needs that touch, that needs that feeling of connection, and you'll squeeze and push and pull to try to get that emotional connection from someone who doesn't have it. So you're constantly, look, dad, look at what I've done. Look, dad, look what I can do. Oh, here, dad, I have something for you. And then you never get to the place of finished business. So you're going to carry it on into your adulthood. And then other people, places, and things can trigger the unfinished business. So you could have some of your retreat goers, your participants that can trigger the leader in the group by not being able to understand what they're receiving or getting out of the retreat, or being able to connect to other retreat participants. Then what happens is the team leader, the retreat leader, will take it upon themselves and, oh, I thought I had a group that could work together, and oh, I thought we could work through things, and oh, I'm providing this workshop within this day so we can have other events happen, and something might fall apart, and then they'll go, oh, I shouldn't have done this retreat here. It could have been the resort in itself, because I've heard that could kind of spoil things up. And then they'll take it upon themselves to like own it. And the thing is you can't own it. You have to go with the flow and know that things are going to come up. Retreats are for people to come to heal, to be triggered. Now, we need to be triggered in order to heal it. Because when someone like me, I'm working in the subconscious space. So I can tell you about you without you telling me. However, there aren't too many people that are like this or doing it for a living. So you'll have your retreat leader that, is seeing that things may not be turning out the way they want, but then they'll start owning it. And then that will have them spiral. And then they'll pull away from doing another retreat, or they'll feel like that they're not good enough for what they've created, when in fact, it's an opportunity for them to heal as well in that trigger. Does that make sense?
Hey, it's Shannon here. I'm just popping in really quickly to ask a big favor. Would you pause the show and go review it for us? Please. Reviews really help us to be able to get more guests and more experts on the show to help you transform your retreats. So if you wouldn't mind pausing and leaving us a review, that would mean everything. And if you're not already subscribed, do that too. It does. I think what I'm hearing you're talking about in the actual space of hosting retreats, which I definitely think that happens. I'm even thinking about before they host it, like as they're planning it and as they're marketing it and as they're trying to build it and they're even thinking about building it, that they could be triggered and start thinking, well, I'm not good enough to do this because somebody just commented on my post and it made me feel like I shouldn't be doing this. So I feel like they're kind of the same as far as like,
Yes.
you're going to be
Yes.
triggered by something that happens. And usually, I mean, obviously, it's something that goes against what you were hoping for, or against what you were planning on, or against what you were expecting. And all of a sudden, I love that you said you own that, right? So you put up your retreat, you're all excited about it, and somebody makes some comment, it's too expensive, or that's too hard to get to, or whatever. Like they just make some
Yes.
comment on it. And then you immediately own that, right?
Hmm. Exactly. And you're right. It does stem back as far as that as well. I was actually just focusing on the end result. But yes, creating the end result and everything in between that as well. And, I love these flashes because that's the intuition that's popping in now. When you said, as they're creating it, writing it down, stating that, oh, someone made a comment on my Facebook or Instagram page that was a negative. And then now I don't know if I'm good enough, right? It's the same thing with writing a book or work or stepping into a project that may be different, becoming an entrepreneur, right? Of thinking that, oh, someone could make a comment or that even a family member saying, what are you doing? Why do you think you can do that? And then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, wait, maybe I'm not. But you know you. You have the expertise in you. You have the drive and the passion in your end result. It doesn't matter what anyone else says or how they act. That's their trigger, right? Because we can trigger each other. So when you put things out on social media, you are going to trigger people so that they can see their own weaknesses, so they can turn them into strengths. They can see that, oh, they're being judgmental. Hopefully they see it, and then they can shift and change that. But that's all within them. The key component, as I shared and you responded to, is you own it. Don't own it. Be you, authentically you, in the end result of what you want to create, knowing that your tribe is here. They're resonating with you. They're obviously getting things out of you or from you, and they want to continue with you.
I love it. So I think there's almost like two parallels happening too. At least this is what I'm hearing. So help me out if I'm on the wrong path. The one parallel is when you're planning your retreat and executing your retreat to really you got to be authentically you. You got to stick to your plan, to your vision, to what feels right in alignment with you. And you have to know your why. And that's got to be really, really strong, right? Because these triggers can make those things falter. And then you start to think, well, maybe I should be more this way, or maybe I should cater more to this. So that's part of it. But then the other half of that is the trigger itself, right? It's the trigger itself. Why did that trigger you? Is it coming from, to your point, childhood? Is it coming from just a history of being told certain things or whatever may be the case, like where is that from? And so Terrie, what can they do about that part? Because I can teach people all day long, like, know your why, stay authentic,
Mhm,
attach to that belief system and stay strong in there. But if they're triggered because of some
mhm,
subconscious thing,
mhm.
help us, like, what do we do with that?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to give you the perfect example. As I was writing my book, The Secret Power of You, I hired a content editor, which would help me just rearrange my words. I wrote them, but then I also hired a graphic designer for the outside of the book. They told me, go find a picture and bring it back to us. I spent 40 hours finding the right thing, a right picture that would really resonate on what was inside those outside pages, right? Everything inside. I found two pictures. I presented them to both of my individuals that I hired. Both of them shut it down, said, oh, it's masculine. No, that's not going to work. And they wanted to give me flowers and all these other things. And I'm like, that's not what the secret power of you is about. So what I did, now listen up, this is a really amazing story. What I did is I went to a girlfriend and I was really upset. And I started crying, saying, I don't understand. I spent all these hours, I presented to the experts, quote unquote, and they're shutting me down. She turned around and she said, did you know that I've written 5 New York Times bestsellers? And I'm like, well, number one, no. And when she said that, I opened up intuitively. I was living. I reached out to her, trusting her. I loved her guidance. Again, intuitively living. That's what we're doing. We have to trust it. When she said that she did that, wrote all those books, and I said, no, why didn't I know that? So while she was sharing back and forth, she said, look, you can hire all the experts you want, but you are the expert. The pictures that you chose resonated with you and what you wrote. So that's what you have to stick with. And what I teach is she threw it right back at me. She said, stop giving away your power. And that's exactly what I tell my clients and people that listen. Don't give away your power. So if you're triggering someone else or they're saying no, if it's resonating with you, then stick with it, stay with it. You're not going to know. I just had a client right before this session between you and I, and she was afraid of stepping into something for fear of the end result. And she said, but I just don't know. And I said, but you're not going to know unless you step into it. So getting it done, getting to your end result, creating your itinerary and putting it together. Because I know that when you're creating those itineraries, we start seeing it in our mind's eye. We start getting super excited on what it's going to look like in the end result. And living in that space can create when you're doing it through your mind and writing it down. You're putting through the end result of what you want down on paper. So when you end up doing it, you're learning through it. You're getting through your first, your second, or your 20th one, and knowing you're growing with each one. Remember, everyone, we are here to expand and grow. Everything else is a choice. So as you're moving into those retreats and the workshops and posting on social media, you're expanding and growing with each opportunity. And you're going to continue to grow with it. Release the fear and allow yourself to make it happen.
Oh, yummy, yummy, yummy. So, what I heard from you is, first of all, stay true to you, be authentic. Whatever your vision or your why is, really feel into that. Make sure that it does resonate. And this part I feel like is super important when it comes to any project that you take on, whether it's hosting retreats or whatever business you're starting, or relationship you're starting, or whatever, is making sure that there's alignment there. And you feel that in your body, you feel that in your heart, you feel that all throughout. And then sticking to that. And when you are triggered, because you will be, I'm just going to say it right now, you're going to be triggered either through the development process, the marketing process, or the execution. At some point, you're going to be triggered. Is to, one, don't own it, and two, don't give your power away. Right? Is that kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
two-step process that I'm hearing? And then maybe third step would be to go back to your why, to go back to that feeling of when you were developing it or creating it or whatever it is, like just going right back to that.
Absolutely. Because your end result is your passion. And so when you're living through your passion and creating it to share with others, it's only going to be good. All that other stuff just will come together. It doesn't really matter. They say that, I know you've heard that you'll see a singer or a celebrity or whoever on a stage or speaking, and they might go off script or the lights might go out and the mic stops, but they keep going. And everyone always says that's a true professional. You keep going because you're learning with all of that. It's showing you something. When I'm talking to people on the phone and their phone goes dead, I call them back and I'll say, what are you afraid of listening or hearing me say? Because there's no coincidence. And so when something comes up, ask it reflecting inside. What is it that I am struggling with? Go to your childhood. Did my mom tell me that I wouldn't be good enough to do something if I didn't do something else? Because that's the this and that state, meaning I have to do this in order to do that. People will get stuck in the this and that state. A perfect example, have to lose weight in order to date. That's the perfect one that most women will get stuck in. Like, no, you're wonderful as you are. Go out and date. So bringing it back to topic, when you're moving forward, you're creating your passion, living in your purpose and your passion to uplift and be in service, because that's what retreats are about, being in service and uplifting. And that's what you are wanting to do, or you wouldn't be here on this podcast in the first place. But there is something in you that's telling you that you want to give back and it's important. Don't stop, keep going. So, yes, you're living in passion, you're living in your purpose, meaning what's your living in the service through your heart, empowering, lifting, and you're learning along the way for yourself and others.
Yes, yes. So now I'm feeling like there's an additional step in here. The first step is, again, knowing your why, tying to your passion, really just embodying that, right? And then when you're triggered, you know, it's that whole don't own it, it's don't give your power away. And then I feel like this extra step in here that you just talked about is also questioning yourself, like, why am I triggered? Exploring that, figuring out, okay, is it from my childhood? Is it from the last relationship I had? Is it from the last job I had? Is it from one of my clients that I used to work with? Like, where does that trigger come from? And exploring that and figuring out what you can learn from that. And then reignite your why. Go back to your why and stick with it. To your point, I love that. Like, stick with it because honestly, y'all, the right people will find you if you are in alignment with your true purpose. Like if you are in alignment with your true purpose, like what you're really, intending to teach and it feels good to you and who you're going to serve, like all of that feels good, then the person who comments that it's too expensive or they comment some, even like the shitty comments, like just release that because they're not meant for you anyway. And that's okay. They're on their own journey and they've got their own healing and processing and they're just projecting. But I'm loving like these steps that people can take, especially because they're going to run into these roadblocks and these triggers as you're doing, especially in service, when you are in service.
Now, I want to revisit because you said it twice. You said it's too expensive if people, because I'm sure that's what people will hear a lot. The leaders will hear a lot. That's where you need to help them get out of their own way. So they resonated with you. They resonated so much, they've got to the point of questioning, what does this entail? Meaning, what am I giving for what I'm giving, right? So the giving is the payment, receiving is the retreat and everything in it. And so step away from that question and say, what did you resonate within what I'm saying and creating for you? How is that looking to help you? Now you're asking them because you're assuming that they are resonating with you because they came to you and that, yes, that's right. And you're assuming there's something in that, but it's better to gain that knowledge directly from them than to assume it. So asking, what is it in this? And how are you seeing that this is going to help your life? So now that you have those answers, which are the key components of getting them to say yes, then you can say, expensive is just a word. So if you're saying that this can change your life, because you're saying how it can help you, why it can help you, and all those other things that they're going to answer, right? Because you're just going to let them talk. So you're saying that this is going to give you what it is that you need. And so when you're changing a life, isn't that worth everything and more? When you're going to walk away with what you're looking for to say empowering you and lifting you, then it's not expensive. It's something you need. And so when you look at it like that and ask them, and don't just end it with, oh, it's too expensive, or because they're using it as an excuse, or I have to ask my husband, they're using that as an excuse, and say, well, how is this that you felt could help you? And then getting them to turn that into their yes as well. There are so many people that have come to me and said the same thing. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You came to me. I resonated with you. I know that I can help you, number one. And so you're saying I can. We just have to meet in the middle. So nothing is expensive. It's how we label it and we think it is. Because if you're spending $50,000 and it's going to make you $1,000,000, isn't it worth it? If you're spending 5,000 go on a retreat and you come home and you change your connection with your husband, your children, your coworkers, even your own business, it's not expensive. It's worth it.
Hey guys, it's Shannon. If you've been dreaming about hosting retreats or taking your existing retreats to the next level, let's make it happen together. Join me August 22nd through 24th for an unforgettable retreat leader mastermind experience. It's going to be located on my ranch in the beautiful Texas Hill Country. Here's what you'll get when you hang out with me and an amazing group of like-minded leaders. learn my top strategies for marketing, business operations, and selling out your retreats. Connect with other passionate retreat leaders in a high-vibe, supportive circle. Recharge, relax, refresh, and soak up all the inspiration our ranch and our staff have to offer, because you deserve it. This isn't just another workshop. It's a chance to step fully into your role as a heart-centered leader while building a business that thrives. I'll be right there with you, sharing everything I've learned from the years of hosting retreats and running my own venue. Spots are super limited, so grab yours now at profitwithpurposemastermind.com. Let's create retreats that transform lives, starting with yours. That's profitwithpurposemastermind.com. I can't wait to see you there. I'm so grateful you're talking about this, or you're narrowing it down to that particular thing, because that is something I think a lot, especially new retreat leaders, struggle with. And because I've talked about this on the podcast before, especially women, and it comes down to that subconscious money block, I think, even of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're really afraid to put a value out there. They're really afraid to say, hey, I'm worth this much. My experience, my knowledge, my energy, my passion, my everything that I have and am is worth a certain amount. And they're afraid of that. And so they harp in and tune in to the first person who says it's too expensive. And so I love that you are tackling that, because I think this is one of the biggest blocks that new retreat leaders especially have.
Yeah, and that's all part of their upbringing as well. So if you have or had a grandmother that was always buying things from the thrift store, or because she loved to thrift, then it would show you the pattern is I have to thrift to get value. And then that's why you can get triggered if someone says that's too expensive, because then your grandmother was showing you you have to buy things to get value from a thrift store. So delete all of that. So that's why I always suggest revisit your childhood. The things that, even though they did not make you feel uncomfortable, I've had a woman who her grandmother kept her every summer. Her grandmother was this one who wore the apron and baked, set the table with all the china, and was showing her granddaughter how to serve and service people. So now here she is, an adult, serving her partner, servicing her clients and her coworkers and whoever else. And she says, I don't understand why I don't have enough time for me. Everybody's so mean to me. They don't work as hard as me. And so I said, well, because your grandmother, with her simple, very gentle ways of showing you, quote unquote, how to serve and service people. And when they're not following all of the ease and grace that you're creating, they can have they can unintentionally take advantage. So I'm saying that because your caregivers don't have to be emotionally or physically abusive for you to have unlimited limiting beliefs, and they can be unintentionally created. But when we think back and say, wow, my granddad had a business, but he made these decisions that in the end, he didn't have any money in the bank when he retired. So then you're going to see that you got to work hard for nothing. Delete, because that's a pattern that you saw during your upbringing. So when you're thinking about money, what was shown to you, and go back usually before the age of 7. Don't think about your ex or your current partner or your coworkers, because those triggers are also from your childhood. So focus on things, events, people, places, and things from 7 and younger. What was projected on you when it came to money? What were you hearing when your parents or guardians were talking? How did your grandparents handle money? And then you're going to go, aha, now I see why I'm triggered every time someone says that's too expensive. Because that can also trigger not good enough within you when someone says that's too expensive, because then they think you're not worth it. But when they've been following you and reading what you're writing and watching your videos, they're already in if you've gotten to the point of connecting with them.
Okay, this is such gold. I love this so much because I really think that we're uncovering a lot of the things that retreat leaders struggle with as
Hmm.
individuals, let alone as business owners or retreat leaders. So, if somebody would like help or maybe would like to work with you, Terrie, what are some ways that you can help these retreat leaders in maybe uncovering and unblocking this, these limiting beliefs and subconscious thoughts?
So when I work with someone, I'm not talk therapy, I'll tell you about you. You don't have to tell me anything, just your first name. And so what I'll do is I'll reveal one of the five different ways, and then they can overlap, but there are five different ways you can pick up limiting beliefs: mom and dad like figures, like grandparents, God, someone else, and something else. So I'll determine what it is the strongest, and then I'll talk for an hour. But if we're remote, it's a lot more talk. If we're face to face, I have a private studio in Bethesda, Maryland, that I would do less talking. But I'm diving deep to reveal why you are struck, excuse me, struck and stuck, I guess, and what it is that you can't get through so that we can empower you and lift you. So it really is about revealing the things that are keeping you from dot, 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 and you know what it is that you're stuck with.
Yay. Well, I will have her information linked in the show notes in case anybody wants to contact Terrie so that they can unstuck and unstruck these limiting beliefs because they do strike you down, let me tell you. And so I will have her website and all her information linked in the show notes so that you can get in contact with Terrie. Terrie, thank you so much for this conversation. I think it was very, very much needed.
Oh, it's a pleasure, and thank you. Please reach out.
Thanks for listening to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. Learn more at www.theretreatranch.com. See you next time.